All right, so today we're diving into artificial intelligence, AI. It's everywhere these days, changing the world in ways we never could have imagined. But what about its impact on the environment? That's what we're going to be looking at in this deep dive. We'll be using your source, The Real Environmental Impact of AI, from Earth.org. We really want to uncover the hidden costs of AI. And you know what's really shocking? Training just one AI model. It can use as much energy as like a whole American household in a year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's this incredible tool that can do so much good, but the process of creating it
Yeah.
and using it, it can have a pretty hefty environmental footprint.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like using a gas guzzler to build solar panels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a little ironic. So how much energy are we talking about here? How bad is it really?
Yeah. Well, the article talks about this research from OpenAI, and they found that the computing power needed to train these really complex AI models, it's been doubling every 3.4 months since like 2012. And if that trend keeps going, the emissions from all that computing, mostly from data centers and networks, it could make up a whopping 14% of global emissions by 2040.
14%. That's insane. That's more than some entire countries. So it's not just the AI itself, it's all the infrastructure behind it too.
Yeah, for sure. You need a ton of servers and energy to run all those complex algorithms. And speaking of which, that UMass study mentioned in the article, they found that training just a single AI model, it can emit something like 626,000 pounds of carbon dioxide.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's like taking 300 round-trip flights between New York and San Francisco.
Jeez. Okay, so we're talking about a ton of energy here. Like virtual air miles makes you think twice about asking your smart speaker to play a song.
Right. Every little interaction we have with AI, scrolling through social media, using navigation apps, it all adds up.
Yeah. This invisible energy monster behind AI, we really need to be more aware of it. But let's not forget about the physical stuff too. All that e-waste. AI isn't just software, it needs a ton of hardware, which eventually ends up in landfills.
Oh, absolutely. The World Economic Forum, they predict that by 2050. Global e-waste will be over 120 million metric tons every year.
Wow. That's a crazy amount of waste.
And it's not just old phones and laptops. It's those massive data centers full of servers and specialized chips.
So what makes e-waste such a big deal?
Well, this e-waste, it's filled with all sorts of hazardous materials, lead, mercury, cadmium, all sorts of nasty stuff. And those toxins, they can leak into the soil and water, which is a huge risk to human health and ecosystems.
So it's like a double whammy. The energy consumption is driving climate change.
Yeah.
And then we've got all this toxic waste polluting the environment. It's like a tech paradox.
Yeah, it really highlights how important it is to think about the whole life cycle of AI systems, from the materials used to create them to how they're disposed of.
So we need to find a way to close the loop, make the whole process more circular and sustainable.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got energy consumption and e-waste. But the article also talks about AI's impact on ecosystems. It seems like AI could affect wildlife and natural habitats in ways we haven't even considered.
That's right. We're really just starting to understand the full impact of AI on the natural world. Think about self-driving cars and delivery drones, for example. Those could have some unintended consequences for animal behavior and their habitats.
Yeah. Animals have evolved over millions of years to adapt to their surroundings.
Yeah.
And now they're having to deal with all these new technologies that are rapidly changing their environments.
And it's not just transportation, AI-driven agriculture. While it could make farming more efficient, it could also lead to more reliance on pesticides and fertilizers, which would be bad for biodiversity and soil health.
So we're trying to solve one problem, but potentially creating another in the process. This is where the ethics of AI development come into play.
Right. We have to be mindful of the potential consequences.
Okay, so we've got energy consumption, e-waste, and potential impacts on ecosystems. But there's one more concern that the article mentions, and that's the lack of transparency around AI development. It feels like a lot of this is happening behind closed doors.
Transparency is really important. Without it, it's hard to know the true environmental cost of AI.
It's like buying a product without knowing where it came from or how it was made.
Exactly. We need more transparency, clearer regulations, and AI design practices that prioritize sustainability from the very beginning.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the challenges here, but I'm hoping there's a silver lining. Are there ways to mitigate AI's environmental impact? Can we create a more sustainable future for this technology?
Absolutely. There are definitely solutions. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be exploring those in more detail.
Sounds good. I'm ready for some good news. So listeners, stay tuned. We're about to explore how we can harness the power of AI while still protecting the planet.
Welcome back. So before we went down that kind of challenging path. We were talking about solutions. And there are ways to make AI more eco-friendly.
Yeah, let's hear it. What can we do to, like, green this tech giant?
Well, one big area is energy efficiency, both in the hardware and the algorithms themselves.
So,
Think about it. Chips and processors that use way less power, even when they're handling these huge data sets.
so it's like trading in a gas guzzler for an electric car, but for AI.
Exactly. There's some really fascinating research happening right now, like neuromorphic computing,
Right.
which is basically designing chips that mimic the structure of the human brain.
Whoa, our brains.
Yeah, our brains are incredibly efficient, so if we can replicate that in AI hardware, we could seriously cut down on energy use.
So AI that thinks more like us.
In a way. But it's not just the hardware. We can also design algorithms that are just inherently more efficient.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Imagine you have two routes to get to the same place. One is a long, winding road. The other is a straight highway. An efficient algorithm is like taking the highway. It gets to the answer faster, using less computing power, and therefore less energy.
That makes sense. So, like, streamlining the code.
Exactly.
But won't that make the AI slower or less powerful?
Not necessarily. Researchers are actually developing algorithms that can learn to be more efficient without losing any accuracy.
So they're teaching AI to be both smart and sustainable.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. So we've talked about the tech side of things, but what about the human element? Where does ethical design come in?
Ethical design is super important. It's about asking the right questions before we even start building anything. Like, do we really need this much data? Could we get the same results with a simpler model? It's about being aware of the environmental cost at every step.
So being more intentional,
Exactly.
not just going for the most complex solution,
Right.
but thinking about the bigger picture.
And it also ties back to transparency. If companies are upfront about the environmental impact of their AI, it gives users more information to make better choices.
Yeah. Right now, it's kind of like a black box. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes.
More transparency would definitely hold companies accountable. And it could also drive innovation.
If everyone knows the cost, there's more incentive to find sustainable solutions.
Exactly. And this is where collaboration is key. We need researchers, companies, and policymakers all working together.
Okay.
Researchers can develop the new technologies, companies can implement them, and policymakers can create incentives and regulations to promote sustainability.
It's like a three-legged stool.
Yeah,
You need all three to make it work.
exactly.
So we've talked about minimizing harm. But what if we could actually use AI to benefit the environment?
Now that's a great idea.
Like, what if AI could actually be a force for good in the fight against climate change?
Imagine AI systems that can analyze tons of environmental data, satellite imagery, sensor data from oceans and forests, weather patterns. AI can process all that information way faster than humans ever could.
So we have a better understanding of how the planet is changing. And what could we do with that information?
Well, for one thing, we could use it to predict and prevent environmental disasters.
Okay.
AI could help us identify areas at risk of deforestation, track endangered species, even predict extreme weather events more accurately.
Wow. That could be huge for conservation.
It goes beyond just prediction, too. We could also use AI to actively restore damaged ecosystems.
Yeah.
Think about swarms of drones planting trees, robots cleaning up pollution in the ocean. AI could help us restore coral reefs.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility.
So the potential here is massive.
Yeah.
If we can use AI for environmental good, it could completely change how we protect and restore the planet.
Absolutely.
But let's be real. What are the challenges here?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is funding. We need to invest a lot of money in research and development. Governments, companies, investors, they all need to prioritize projects that focus on AI and sustainability.
Right. It's not just about building the next cool gadget. It's about investing in the future of our planet.
Yeah.
But it's not just about money either. We also need to make sure that these AI systems are developed ethically and responsibly.
That's right.
We need to be aware of potential biases in the data and think about any unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
We don't want to create new problems while trying to solve old ones.
Definitely not.
So it seems like we're at a crossroads. AI could be both a threat and a savior for the environment.
It all comes down to how we choose to develop and use it.
So we've talked about minimizing the harm AI can cause.
Hmm.
But what if we could actually design AI to be inherently good for the environment?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. Instead of just reducing the negative impacts, what if AI could actually actively protect and restore the environment.
Okay. I like where this is going. What would that look like?
Imagine AI that can analyze huge amounts of environmental data, like satellite imagery, sensor readings from the oceans and forests, weather patterns, all that data. AI could process it all, much faster than humans ever could, and find patterns and trends that we might miss.
So it'd be like having this incredibly smart, like super intelligent environmental scientist constantly monitoring the planet.
Exactly.
But what could we actually do with that information?
Well, one thing we could do is predict and prevent environmental disasters.
Okay.
AI could help us identify areas that are at high risk for deforestation or track the movement of endangered species. It could even help us predict extreme weather events more accurately.
That would be a game changer, especially for conservation efforts.
Right. But it's not just about prediction. We could use AI to actually take action and restore damaged ecosystems.
Like how?
Imagine swarms of AI-controlled drones planting trees in deforested areas, or robots cleaning up plastic pollution in the ocean. AI could even help us restore coral reefs.
Wow, that sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's all within the realm of possibility.
So the potential is huge.
Yeah. If we can harness the power of AI for good, it could completely change how we protect and restore the planet.
Okay. But let's be realistic. There have to be some challenges.
Oh, of course. One of the biggest challenges is funding. We need to invest a lot of money into research and development. Governments, companies, investors, they all need to prioritize funding for projects that focus on AI and sustainability.
Yeah. This is about more than just building the next cool app or gadget. This is about the future of our planet.
Right.
But it's not just about money either. We also need to make sure that these AI systems are being developed ethically and responsibly.
Absolutely.
We need to be aware of any potential biases in the data and think about the unintended consequences.
We don't want to create new problems while we're trying to solve old
It
ones.
sounds like we're at a crossroads. AI could be both a threat and a savior for the environment.
It really comes down to how we choose to develop and use it.
That's a good point. So listeners, as we wrap this deep dive, I want to leave you with a challenge. What role do you see AI playing in protecting our planet? What steps can we take, both individually and collectively, to ensure that AI becomes a force for good? Let's keep this conversation going and work together to build a future where technology and nature can thrive together. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.